Hi, I'm Jamie Miller of Sunflower Quilts, and I would like to introduce to you our first video on our video blog, where you can find us at www.sunflower-quilts.com. We plan on posting videos once a week, if not more, but I'm going to just say once a week. And it'll be anywhere from a free motion quilting tutorial to making a project, to making a quilt pattern, just anything that we feel like talking about that week, and it's going to be in video form. And then we'll have list of printouts of things that go along with the project that we will be making, and we're very excited to introduce it to you. Today we're going to be making a toy pouch. I have an almost 5-year-old, and he's got lots of different toys. For instance, in this one it's Pokeballs, because he's obsessed with Pokemon. And I needed something that he could put all of his Pokemon stuff in to take to basketball games or football games or whatever, church, any of those things. And so I made this big pouch with boxed in corners, and I will show y'all how to make it today. So you'll need 9 by 13 inch rectangles you'll need 2 outer pieces and 2 inner pieces. So the outer pieces, like this, are for the outside of the pouch, and I'm using this Paw Patrol fabric for the inner pieces or the lining. And then you'll need one 12-inch zipper. And if your machine has a zipper foot, that would be super helpful, but it's not necessary. This is what my zipper foot looks like if you've never used a zipper foot before. I'm trying to get it to focus. And it's just a smaller foot. Like, here's my 1/4-inch foot. You can see this part is just a lot smaller, and it allows you to get super close to the feet of the zipper without having to adjust it too much. But if you don't have a zipper foot, please feel free to just use your regular foot. It'll work just fine too. You just might have to go a little slower. And so both of my inner and outer pieces of fabric are all 100% Quilter's cotton. And I'll try to find out what fabric I'm using and where I got it from. But I'm just using this cute green and white stripe, and I'm making this one for my niece, and her favorite is Rocky from Paw Patrol. So I did applique Rocky on it, and this will be the front of the pouch. And all of the products that I used besides the fabric are all Thermoweb, and I will have a link to how I appliqued this and what I used on Thermoweb's blog. I used Heat and Bond soft woven fusible interfacing. So it's a woven. I like the woven when I make pouches, purses, bags, all that sort of stuff. I like the woven. It just is a little nicer of a feel for the pouch. I used the woven fusible on the wrong side of both the outer pieces and the liner pieces. So it just it's not necessary. It just makes the pouch a little more sturdy and not as flimsy. So you don't have to do this step, but I recommend it. It just makes it a little nicer and looks a little more professional. But again, not necessary to make the pouch. If you only have fabric and you just want to make it fabric, totally fine too. So you will need your zipper, and in order to start the pouch, I have my zipper foot on, which, let me turn my machine on, that would be helpful. I have my zipper teeth down, so the front side, these are the teeth of the zipper. You want this as the top, you want this to be face down. So let me see if y'all can see that. So I have one of my outer pieces of fabric right side up, and then I have the teeth of the zipper, we'll call this the right side, but teeth side down, and I line it up along the top edge, which is the long 13 edge. So however wide your pouch is, which the one I'm making for this toy pouch is 13 inches, I have that 13 inches widthwise And then I have the teeth face down. And then what I like to do is I open my zipper. It just makes it a little easier. And so I'll line it up with the top. If you're new to doing zippers, if you've never done them before or they make you nervous, do not be nervous. I would pin it in place. That way it's not going to move around while you're sewing it, and it just makes it a little more manageable. I usually skip this step because I am lazy and I just want to get it done. But for this video, I'll pin it in place, I guess. Okay, so I pinned my zipper, it's open. Again, teeth are face down, exterior piece of fabric is face up. Okay, so we're about to install the zipper, and I have my zipper foot on my machine. Again, it is not necessary to have a zipper foot. It does make your life a little easier. I also have a needle down position, so when I stop, my needle stays put where it is. That is super helpful. If you do not have that feature on your machine, you'll just have to do it manually, and it does make it a lot easier. So I already started sewing, and I'll just remove my pins as I go. And I hope y'all can tell, but you see how close with this zipper foot I'm able to get to the teeth of the zipper? That is what gives it that nice, clean, more finished look, being able to get as close as possible to that zipper. The zipper teeth, excuse me. And so here's my trick before I'm almost to the end. But this is the hardest part to get around in my zipper. So my needle is down. I lift my foot up, and then I'll go a little slow. Sorry, if you couldn't see that. I will zip it closed, and then I'll continue to sew all the way down till the end of the pouch. And it is okay if your zipper is longer than the fabric. We'll cut those off at the end. So step one, I'll close this all the way. Step one, you sew the zipper. And I should have used a more contrasting thread, but you can see my gray stitches. You can see how close with that zipper foot I was able to get to the actual zipper. And if you don't have a zipper foot, do this exact same thing, but just kind of go slower and get as close to the teeth as possible, because that way you can see when I flip it, it just looks really nice. So I've got the zipper face down, zipper teeth face down, excuse me. This is the back, and I've sewn it to the one front piece of my pouch. Now I will take one lining piece, which mine's directional, so be very careful if you're doing it directional. Make sure it's going the same way. I have my, let me scooch this up. I have my outer piece of fabric still facing up, my teeth attached facing down from the zipper, and then I'll take my lining piece. Here's the top because it's directional. I turn it over so that it is wrong side up, and I make a sandwich, kind of like a quilt sandwich, but just without batting. And I line it up so that the zipper is sandwiched between the lining and the outer piece of fabric. And again, not necessary, but I would suggest if you're doing zippers for the first time to pin in place. It just makes it a little easier, and then you know that it's in the right spot and it's not going to move around. Again, I usually skip this step because I'm lazy, and close enough is good enough for me. Okay, so now we're going to sew along the zipper to attach the lining to our zipper and front pouch piece. My trick is, since we've already sewn the zipper to the front piece, I've got it pinned so I know it's going to stay in place. I flip it around so that I see the back side of the front piece, and I can see where I've already stitched. So this is where the zipper is already attached. This, I just follow along this line to do the same thing and attach the lining to the front. That way I know I'm not going to see any extra stitches, and this will all be closed together and it'll be in the same spot. And I'll show y'all what that looks like. Again, I have my zipper foot on, makes it a lot easier. And I've got it pinned so I know it's in the right place. And I'm just following that stitch line that I already stitched to attach the front piece to the zipper. Okay, so I'll flip it back around. Here's the wrong side of my lining piece. And here is the front side of my exterior piece. And here's the zipper. So now I can zip it closed, and the zipper is sandwiched in between the two. And I will go over to my ironing table and show you what to do next. Okay, we are back to the machine. Again, I have my zipper foot on. We just ironed the seams away from the zipper teeth. And now I'm going to top stitch along this pressed edge. So now you just do the same exact thing for the opposite side. So I will do this outer side of the pouch facing up, and then I'll put the zipper teeth facing down and do the exact same thing. So I'll sew along the zipper on this side, and then I'll do the lining. Flip it over, sew where I've already sewn, press, and then top stitch. And then you'll have both sides completed of your pouch, and then it's just assembly. So I'll show you all what that looks like. now we're going to assemble our pouch. We've got the zipper installed. This is the front side of the pouch, and this side is the lining of the pouch. You start with the lining, and you take both sides of lining and bring them right sides together, matching the ends. You will know what I forgot. I'm going to remove my zipper foot and put on my regular foot or your 1/4 inch foot. I'm putting on my 1/4 inch foot just because it's just kind of my go-to. And starting with the 2 lining pieces, that's this character print. You're going to want to leave a small opening in the center of the bottom of your lining. 2 to 3 inches is plenty of room. I would probably do more like 3 because you're going to want to be able to pull your pouch through that opening. So I would start, let's see, this is about 9 inches. It's not about, it's 9 inches wide. So, or 13 inches wide, excuse me. So I would go about 4 inches away from the edge. So here, let me span out a little bit. So here is our pouch. It's 13 inches wide. I am starting on our lining pieces about 4 inches away from the end. And then I just sew, I'll back stitch. So let me show you. Back stitch. And then sew all the way to the end. You do not need to back stitch at the corners because we're going to be boxing those in the next step, and it would just be a waste of a step because then you're cutting it off. And then you'll go up along the 9-inch side. My tripod's in the way, sorry. Oh, I almost forgot. A very, very, very most important step before you start sewing these layers together, unzip your zipper. Otherwise, when you go to turn your pouch right side out, you're not going to be able to turn it. So please, please, please make sure your zipper is unzipped before you start sewing these layers together. So now I sew 1/4 of an inch. You can do a 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, whatever you feel like. I'm doing a 1/4 of an inch for my seam allowance. And then you want to make sure your zipper teeth are in the exact same spot right here, and push your zipper teeth down towards the lining. And you want to make sure they're faced in the same direction. And I'll show you a closer picture of that in a minute. Go slow over that zipper. And then you'll go all the way down to the other corner of your outer pieces of your bag, or your pouch, excuse me. Take my pin out so I don't poke myself. Turn it. And then for the other side of your outer pieces, you do not need to leave an opening. You're going to want to sew the entire corner. And then remember, we're back at the lining. Along the 13-inch side, you want to leave about a 3-inch opening in the center so that way we can pull our pouch right side up. And this is where you backstitch. This is what our pouch looks like. This is the lining, and I have about a 3-inch opening right here in the lining on the bottom. I've started here. I sewed all the way around to the front. There's a continuous line here. Go all the way down, come back towards my lining, and then I stop and backstitch here so that I have this opening to turn my pouch right side out. Okay, so now I'm going to box the corners of our pouch, and I do all 4 of them. The 2 corners on our outside of the pouch and the 2 corners on the lining side of the pouch. And again, there's a 3-inch opening, so you'll want to be careful of that. I usually start with the lining. Again, not sure why, just a creature of habit. And let's see if y'all can see what I'm doing. So here's the bottom corner, let's say the bottom left corner, and here's my opening. You want to pull those open and match the side seam to the partial bottom seam, and then press it. Let me press it, and then I'll kind of show y'all if that's confusing. You basically just want to flatten it. So here is my corner. So here is the opening of our lining. I have this seam and this side seam touching together, and then I flatten the corner. So then you can tell, here's the top, here's the zipper, here's that flattened piece, and I'll do it to all 4 corners the exact same. And then once I have all 4 corners, I take a small ruler. This is like an inch by 1 by 9 inch ruler. And how I do this, I measure, and I use my disappearing ink pen because it's on the wrong side of the fabric, so it doesn't really matter if the ink shows because you're not going to see it once the pouch is completed. And let me move this a little better so y'all can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I have this pressed corner of my lining pieces on my pouch. We're going to box the corners. I've gotten it flattened out and pressed, so I have a crisp edge, and I'm going to mark from this corner 1.5 inches in. So not where the dog ear is, but right where your stitching starts, I mark 1.5 inches up along that seam. And then put a mark right there. And now I will know where to sew. So I have my sewing line right here, and this is how we'll box our corners. So let me do it to the other 3 corners, and then we'll go over to the sewing machine and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so I've got my 4 corners that I want to box marked 1.5 inches up and the entire pressed part across. And for all 4 corners, you just sew along that marking line. And again, it doesn't matter if you use disappearing ink or a chalk pencil or if you use a permanent marker, because you are not going to see this marking line anyway. And another good tip, I like to backstitch along each end right here and here, my starting and stopping point, just to make that corner more secure and last a little bit longer. All 4 of my corners where we've marked for the boxing are sewn together. Now you take some little scissors. I like very sharp ones for this because there's a couple layers. And you can measure this again if you want, but you're going to want to trim a 1/4 inch about seam allowance. If it's not quite a 1/4 inch, that's okay. But you do it to all 4 of your corners on both the lining and the front of your pouch. And now you will have perfectly boxed corners. And I really like box corners on pouches, especially for this toy pouch, because it just allows it to sit up straight a little better. Okay, so now we're going to flip our pouch right side out. So you have the opening from the lining, you have your zipper unzipped, and you just, here's my hand through the hole. You pull the outer part of the pouch through the lining. You're going to want to press, here's the opening, you're going to want to press that seam allowance 1/4 inch down into the open part of the lining and press it with your iron, and then stitch it closed. You'll want to stitch this about 1/8 inch from the edge. That way it's secured and closed and won't open when your pouch is complete. And I like to back stitch at the front and, or the beginning and the end. That way I know it's secure, and then you'll trim off the excess thread. So now here you can see my stitching, and now the opening is fully closed. It won't open again. And then now we will turn our lining down into the outside of the pouch. Just kind of push it in there. Kind of match up the 2 box corners. I just use my fingers. You can see what I'm doing. Push them down. Make sure those box corners look nice. So now you see why I like box corners. It kind of allows it to sit up a little bit easier. And I push out these corners too with my fingers is just fine. Or if you have a poker tool of the zipper, I like to just kind of push them out. That way they look a little cleaner. And voila! Okay, so now your zipper pouch is done. Your toy zipper pouch is what I call it. It's a big one. You did your box corners, you did your zipper, and I told y'all it wasn't scary. It's kind of intimidating to do a zipper the first time, but if I can do it, you can do it. Trust me on that. And this is going to be a birthday gift for my 3-year-old niece. And I hope she likes it, and I hope she puts all her Paw Patrol toys in there. And if you make one, please tag us on whatever form of social media that you put it on. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. You can find us at sunflower_quilt, and that's both for Twitter and Instagram, and then search for Sunflower Quilts on Facebook. Make sure y'all come back every week to our new video blog, where we'll have a video tutorial at least once a week, if not more. And it'll be between myself and my mom, depending on whose week is a little less chaotic. But we're both going to post videos. So if you like it, let us know. Please share it. And thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.